I used to think love meant never keeping score. That if you were really in it for the long haul, you didn't need to protect yourself from the person you were planning forever with. That prenups were for people already expecting to lose. Now I'm sitting in a bridal boutique alone. Half-zipped into a dress that suddenly feels like a costume for a role I'm not even sure I want to play anymore. There's an untouched glass of champagne on the table beside me, still bubbling. My engagement ring is still on, even though I haven't heard from Ryan in 4 days. Funny how fast things can change when money enters the equation. We used to be so solid. 3 years of slow-burn love, built on mutual respect and shared values. We cooked together, laughed over stupid movies, supported each other's dreams. We had this unspoken rule: no games, no greed, no secrets. Love over everything. And I believed that. God, I did. I remember being at a friend's bachelorette party and someone brought up prenups. Most of the girls agreed it was smart, just in case. But not me. I remember saying, if you need a prenup, you probably shouldn't be getting married in the first place. Ryan backed me up immediately. He took my hand and said, exactly. If we're building a life together, why plan for it to fall apart? That night I went home thinking I'd found the one. The man who didn't see me as a backup plan or a stepping stone, but a partner. An equal. But now I'm sitting here with a seamstress waiting to finish pinning the hem, and a silence in my phone that's louder than anything I've ever heard. Because a week ago, something happened that changed everything. My grandmother, my second mom, my only real family, passed away. And with her death came something I wasn't expecting, an inheritance. A massive one. $800,000. Out of nowhere. No warning. No conditions. Just, mine. And that's when I saw it, the flicker in Ryan's eyes. Not joy. Not relief. Not, we'll be okay now. It was, calculation. Hunger. Maybe even entitlement. And when I suggested a prenup, just to protect the unexpected gift I didn't earn, but was entrusted with, he didn't just hesitate. He exploded. The man who once said, if we're planning forever, why plan for failure, suddenly wasn't sure he wanted to marry me anymore. Now I'm here. Dress half-zipped. Heart half-broken. And wondering if I was ever loved, or just invested in. I didn't grow up with much, but I never felt poor. My mom was gone before I turned 6. I never knew my father. But my grandmother, Eleanor, stepped in without a second thought. She wasn't the warmest woman, not the type to bake cookies or cry during movies. But she was steady. Private. Fiercely independent. The kind of woman who wore the same coat for a decade but quietly bought the neighbors' groceries when they couldn't. She never talked about money. I assumed she lived on a modest pension and smart budgeting. Turns out, she'd been quietly investing for years, but I didn't know any of that then. By the time I met Ryan, I was working in marketing, living paycheck to paycheck, and proud of it. Ryan worked in tech, better salary, flashier clothes, but he never acted like it mattered. He said he loved how grounded I was. That I didn't chase status. That I reminded him what was real. We met at a volunteer event, painting classrooms at an underfunded school. He complimented my brushwork, and I rolled my eyes. By date 3, we were finishing each other's sentences. We weren't flashy. We cooked pasta at home. Shared Spotify playlists. Talked about our parents, our fears, our futures. We talked about marriage early on, not in a let's set a date way, but in a if we ever do this, we do it our way kind of way. No big expectations. No prenups. No backup plans. Love or bust. I'd never sign a prenup, I told him one night after watching a celebrity divorce unfold in the news. Feels like you're already planning your exit. Exactly, he said. If I wanted a business transaction, I'd go invest in stocks. Marriage is about trust. God, I believed him. Then, about a year ago, Grandma got sick. Pancreatic cancer. It happened fast. One day she was gardening, the next she was in and out of chemo, shrinking before my eyes. I started spending every weekend with her. Reading to her. Watching old black and white movies. Holding her hand when the pain got bad. One evening, while I was brushing her hair, she said something that stuck with me. Emily, when you marry, don't lose yourself just to keep someone else. I didn't fully get it at the time. I just smiled and told her Ryan wasn't like that. He was kind. Patient. Supportive. And he was, mostly. But every now and then, he'd say something that rubbed me the wrong way. Once we're married, I'm retiring. You'll take care of me, right? He'd laugh, kiss my forehead, and call it a joke. But jokes, I've learned, are often the softest way to reveal the truth. And I wish I'd listened harder. The day of Grandma's funeral, it rained. Not a soft, poetic drizzle, the kind that movies romanticize, but a cold, relentless downpour that soaked through my shoes and made my skin feel like ice. The chapel smelled like lilies and loss. Ryan stood beside me, holding my hand, saying all the right things. But his grip wasn't steady. His eyes kept drifting. I told myself it was just the grief, or maybe the awkwardness of watching me fall apart in public. 3 days later, I got the call from the estate lawyer. I almost didn't answer. I was still too numb, still sleeping with one of Grandma's cardigans balled up on my pillow. But then I heard the words, "You've been named the sole beneficiary. The total estate value comes to roughly $800,000. I laughed. I genuinely thought it was a mistake. Cash, stocks, the house. All mine. Just like that. I cried again, not because of the money, but because it felt like her last way of protecting me. Giving me the foundation she never had. She didn't trust many people, but she trusted me. That night, I told Ryan. We were eating takeout in our apartment, sitting cross-legged on the couch. I was nervous, excited, yes, but also overwhelmed. I told him everything, expecting him to grab me and spin me around the room. Or just say he was proud of her. Of me. Of us. Instead, he stared at me for a long second and said, "Wow. So, you're rich now. That changes things." Then he smiled, but it was thin. Mechanical. Over the next few days, his tone shifted. Suddenly he was browsing luxury resorts in Bora Bora. Talking about buying a Tesla. Joking, loudly, about quitting his job. I mean, we're good now, right? You've got us covered. And just like that, I felt the shift. The ground beneath my relationship tilted. What once felt like us became me and my money. So I brought it up, gently. One night, while folding laundry, I said, "I've been thinking, maybe we should look into a prenup. Just to keep things clean and simple." His face fell. I'd slapped him without touching him. A prenup? Are you serious? Yeah. Not because I don't trust you. Just, this was a gift. Something Grandma meant for me. I think we owe it to ourselves to be smart. Wow, he said, laughing bitterly. So that's where we're at now. What happened to "prenups are toxic"? That was your line, remember? But now that you have the money, suddenly it's about protecting yourself. Ryan, it's not like that. You're not who I thought you were. He didn't yell. He didn't fight. He just picked up his coat, walked out the door, and didn't answer my calls for days. And that's when I realized I'd never seen the real him. Not until now. The silence was worse than the fight. Ryan didn't block me. He didn't send some final, scathing message. He just disappeared. The first few days, I was a wreck. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I kept checking my phone, staring at our old photos, our weekend road trips, our lazy Sundays, the proposal he planned in the park with fairy lights and my favorite song playing in the background. I kept thinking, this isn't how people who love each other end. We were supposed to be partners. Equals. Building a life together brick by brick. But now, it felt like we'd been living in a house made of paper, and all it took was one gust, one inheritance, for everything to blow apart. Some friends were supportive. "You were smart," my best friend Lily said. "It's your money. You weren't wrong to ask for a prenup." But others weren't so sure. "You changed the rules halfway through," one of Ryan's friends texted me. "Of course he's upset. You broke the trust." I didn't respond. Because the truth was, I didn't know if they were entirely wrong. Late one night, unable to sleep, I started scrolling through old texts with Ryan. Looking not for comfort, but for clues. Something in my gut was itching. And there they were. "If you ever win the lottery, I'm quitting my job immediately, man. Wouldn't it be nice to just marry rich and never worry about bills? You take care of me, right? If we hit the jackpot." I used to think he was being silly. Just teasing. But now, it read differently. Not playful. Not innocent. More like foreshadowing. A soft setup for something bigger. And I started asking the question I'd been too afraid to say out loud. Did he love me, or did he love the life we could build together, as long as I stayed small enough to need him? Because the moment I had more security, more power, he saw it as betrayal. And then came the twist I didn't expect. One night, lying awake, I asked myself, if the roles were reversed, if he'd gotten the money instead of me, would I have signed a prenup without blinking? And my stomach turned. Because I wasn't sure. Maybe I would have said the same thing. Why do we need this? We trust each other, right? Maybe I would have expected to share it all. Without question. Without conditions. That was the scariest part. Not that Ryan turned on me. But that maybe, deep down, I would have done the same. It wasn't just the betrayal that broke me. It was the realization that neither of us had been honest with ourselves about what love really meant when money got involved. It happened on a Wednesday. I was cleaning out a drawer in Grandma's house, sorting through old photos and dusty keepsakes, when my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. The voice was calm. Male. Professional. "Is this Emily Turner?" "Yes." "I can't give you my name, but I'm a family law attorney. I met with your fiancé, or ex-fiancé, a few days ago." I froze. I know I'm breaking some rules by calling. But after the way he spoke, I couldn't keep quiet. "You deserve to know what he's planning." Planning what? He wanted to know how quickly he could get married and, his words, not mine, lock in access to your inheritance. He asked if a judge could consider the funds marital property if you didn't sign a prenup. He even joked that if you refused, he'd find a way around it later. My mouth went dry. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't pride or wounded love. This was entitlement. Calculation. Strategy. It hit me like a truck. He wasn't just disappointed. He felt cheated. Because I had something now, and he didn't. I called him that night. No more silence. No more pretending. He answered, finally. Flat voice. No apology. I talked to a lawyer today, I said. Yeah. He told me you went to him. Asked how to access my money through marriage. Silence. Did you love me, Ryan? Or were you just waiting for me to become your retirement plan? He laughed, cold, bitter. You act like I asked for a handout. We were supposed to be a team. You weren't rich 2 weeks ago. And now you're acting like some trust fund princess. That money was a gift. A legacy. It's not yours just because we were going to share a bed. You didn't even earn it, he snapped. Why should I live small while you have everything handed to you? And that's when I told him. I'm donating half of it. To women's shelters. To girls who were never given a chance. The line went dead silent. Then he exploded. You're insane. That money could have been our future. Our house, our vacations, our life. You're throwing it away out of spite. No, I said quietly. I'm throwing away you. Because you were never part of the life I wanted, just the lifestyle. I hung up. And for the first time in weeks, I finally breathed. It's been 11 months. The dress I never wore is hanging in the back of my closet, still wrapped in plastic. I keep telling myself I'll donate it, but I haven't found the strength yet. It's not the fabric or the price tag, it's the ghost of the girl who picked it out. The girl who thought love meant never asking questions. I'm still single. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I used to think that being alone meant being unchosen. Left behind. But now, it means I didn't settle. It means I chose myself. After everything happened, I took a long, hard look at my life. What I wanted. What I valued. I kept $400,000 from grandma's inheritance, invested most of it. No flashy car. No luxury condo. Just a small townhouse with creaky stairs, plants I try not to kill, and a desk where I write every morning. I started a podcast. At first, it was just a space to process what happened. I called it Clear Love. Now it has thousands of listeners. Women from all over write in with stories that sound eerily like mine. They say things like, I thought I was crazy for asking questions. Thank you for saying the things I was too ashamed to admit. I didn't realize I was being emotionally manipulated until you described your story. And I get it. I really do. Because love, real love, can make you blind. It wraps itself in poetry and shared playlists and late-night forehead kisses. But underneath it, if there's no clarity, no respect, no mutual understanding of boundaries and value, then it's not love. It's just illusion. Sometimes I still hear Ryan's voice in my head. The bitterness. The disbelief. The line I'll never forget, it's not like you earned that money. But here's the thing, I did. Not through stocks or labor, but through loyalty. Through every sacrificed weekend I spent at grandma's bedside. Through the love I gave freely, without expectation. Through the woman I became because of her. That money wasn't a jackpot. It was proof that someone believed I was worth protecting. And now, I protect myself. I don't see love as an all-or-nothing gamble anymore. I see it as a partnership built with eyes open. With honesty, transparency, and the courage to have uncomfortable conversations before the wedding invitations go out. So no, I don't think prenups are toxic anymore. I think silence is. I'll leave you with this, I used to think love meant never keeping score. Now I know, love is trust, but trust isn't silence. And love without clarity. That's just hope in a mask.